Enjoy the show the Van Wezel way. Van Wezel Performing Arts Hall.
Oh, yeah.
Welcome back, everybody, to another Curtain Call Conversation. I am your host, Justin Gomlak, the Director of Education and Community Engagement here at the Van Wezel Performing Arts Hall. And I am so excited about my guest today. She is legendary, and she is
Kim Hall, and I'm a fourth grade teacher at Alta Vista Elementary. I'm also the team leader and a longtime fan of the Van Wezel and the TheaterWorks shows.
Also, you were Teacher of the Year fairly recently.
Teacher of the Year several years ago,
and an incredible, like you said, an incredible ally for us here in the education department, because we rely so much on the partnership between the classroom teachers and us in order to bring kids to. So wait, actually, I'm going to give just a little bit of background. Part of what we do in the education department at the Van Wezel is we present shows that are designed for children, that are not open to the public, that we only sell the tickets to schools. And the point of these shows is to give schools a chance to bring kids to the Van Wezel for an experience, experiencing live theater. And a lot of times it's these kids' first time in any theater ever, and sometimes their only experience in a theater ever. So we take it really seriously. We program high quality productions that are with almost always there's some kind of a curricular connection to allow for teachers, should they wish, to make a connection to what the kids are doing in their classroom work to what they're going to see in, here at the Purple Cow. And so that whole program is called the School Time program. Kimmy, you've been bringing kids on the School Time for
too many years to count, so we'll just skip right over.
We'll just
that.
say some years, some time.
But I just want to touch on what you mentioned, is that it's a partnership. I teach at Alta Vista Elementary, and I've taught K1, 2, 3, 4. I'm currently in fourth grade, and when you bring kids, especially in the primary grades, and this is often their first experience at the theater, it's magical. So before we get to the curricular part, there's that magic of coming to the theater for the first time, when it's hard to imagine that students living in Sarasota, the first time I brought kids here, and the first time they were here, they looked out across the bay and they said, "Oh, look, it's China." So they don't know even what's in their own community. And they come into the theater and they're just in awe by the lights and the seating and the stage. And so before they even get to the, to sit and watch the play, they're so excited. And the experience of the theater, Sarasota is such a big arts community. Yeah. I think starting them young and getting them engaged in that way is magical, and it's so important.
Well, and really, I always talk about that we're in the business, and in my department, we're in the business of building audiences. And you can't, if you've never had an experience, you don't understand its value, and you won't necessarily return to it as an adult. You'll find other ways to spend your money or to be entertained. So if we can plant those seeds magically in the primary grades, then that, who knows where that will lead in that individual human as they develop into older humans.
Absolutely. And you see, I keep in touch with students who are now in middle school and high school and even beyond. I'm embarrassed to say.
No.
And many of them get involved in theater programs at their school. So you never know how that ripple effect. It really is so important. So it's more than yes, there are all those curricular components and helping kids read and become stronger readers. But there's that magic of the theater that I think really for me is a big piece of it.
I appreciate you saying that because I'm biased and I will always say how magical the theater is, but it's really nice hearing it from someone who isn't always here at the theater, and that it is I would think, this does become the entire event of traveling on a bus to the building, getting here, sitting down, using the big bathroom. Like, I think all of that stuff kind of coalesces in a really, I hope, inspiring way for, maybe not everybody, but
Maybe not but I think every student gets something out of it, and in different ways. And that for me is the most important thing, and why I continue to do it every year. And I also want to mention that the programming that's offered is of high interest to students, right? We're competing in the classroom, in the theater for children, right? In the shows you choose to present. We're competing with the internet. We're competing with TikTok. We're competing with video games. And it's really, really difficult when, kids are used to the seconds long videos, getting, that to come back and to reel them back in to books and sitting through a show.
Yeah, and even though our shows are only 45 to 50 minutes long, that's a long time to be focusing on one thing for a developing kid.
Absolutely. So that is really where that high interest piece comes in. So having these shows where they've read the book or they're involved with the characters or they can relate to the characters is really key. And every year you do not disappoint. There are always wonderful shows for every grade level. There's something for everyone.
Thank you. And we will be talking about some of those coming up in a moment. So I would love to, before we go and talk about some of these new shows, I would love to talk a little bit about the fact that we here at the Van Wezel Education Department, we create these modules of standards aligned lesson plans that we hope will help the teachers prepare their kids for their trip to the theater. And I'm wondering if you could talk a little bit about maybe some of the ways that you prepare your kids for their trip to the theater.
Absolutely. Again, as someone who's been to numerous trainings, numerous shows, and had multiple opportunities, met many fabulous teaching artists here, and also have taken a lot of professional development in my career, I think the difference here is the modules are fun. So they're fun for the teachers. So that makes it easier to remember what you've learned and to take it back to your classroom and to pass that on to others. So as teachers, we build these toolboxes, right? We talk about that a lot. We go to different, trainings, we learn different things, and we pick up different tools. But what's different about those modules here is we have the opportunity to come here in person, learn new things, take it back. But we also have the opportunity to sometimes have teaching artists come to our classroom and follow up in a different way. And that is really magical too, because to see them share with students a different way of learning, if you will, is amazing. We talk a lot in education about there's different ways to be smart. There's different ways kids learn. And for kids who maybe don't excel at the paper pencil or computer keyboard, I should say today,
right.
at the paper pencil type level, it's amazing to see they can show their understanding through their bodies, through art, maybe through multiple, there's multiple opportunities to show their understanding non-traditional way.
Yeah, some kids are just a little bit more dramatic than others. So if you give them a drama activity, they're gonna excel. And I think that's the beauty about teaching in general. You have to kind of find the ways that your students engage best to make them feel like they're, like you said, like that the learning might look different from child to child, which makes a teacher's job so difficult, and a good teacher is so valuable and undervalued in our society. May I just say it right here?
Thank you.
But that's almost like a kid is a puzzle. that you kind of have to figure, okay, what's going to work best for you, kid?
I say that all the time because it's one of my favorite things about teaching is that every child, yes, they all have certain things in common for sure, but they're all different. And well, maybe 80% of them will learn something the same way and you can teach it, whole group, and they've got it. There's always those students who aren't going to get it the same way as everybody else. And figuring out how to meet that student where they're at and unlock that knowledge for them and see that light bulb go off is really powerful and really is what keeps me coming back to teaching year after year.
I mean, I find that those kids are the ones that stay with you the most because they're probably the ones that are the most that struggle the most in the traditional environment. But then when you find their thing and they start to bloom, that is it's magic. And it's and when you find that, I think it is often really life changing for that child to feel like they're being seen in their way.
Absolutely. And you said it, those are the kids that stay with you because you always remember. I have kids who will email me and say, oh, I'm doing this, or can you come see me do this? And so you had an impact. You might not know in that year, you might come home on a Friday and be tired and think, oh, it was a hard week or whatever. But those kids who come back, 5 years later and say, oh, I'm, starring in this show, or I was on stage here, I'm in the Nutcracker, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
And just share with you what they're doing in their lives is really makes it all worth it, for sure.
Rewarding. Well, on behalf of every student you've ever had, thank you for the work that you do, Kim. You are an inspirational teacher.
Thank you.
I want to tell you that we always do a I was actually, before I get to that, I was wondering, do you have could you tell us a story about one of your trips to the Van Wezel? Is there something that ever popped out at you, like something that occurred that stays with you?
Well, I do want to say this. I'm a little embarrassed to admit this story, but this could be a good teacher tip for others.
Ooh, yeah.
So before we come to the theater, we always talk about theater behavior. And again, this is something that if you don't come and you don't know and nobody's ever taught you, it's something that has to be explicitly taught. These expectations need to be explicitly taught. But one personal peeve I have is when kids get up to use the bathroom. It drives me, really gets to me. So every year, whether I taught kindergarten, first, second, third, and even in fourth grade, I always tell them, the bathrooms are working. I got it not working. They're out of order. So I always say, everybody use the bathroom beforehand. Fortunately, we're very close. So this may not work for everyone, I understand. But we're very close. It's 45-minute show. I know that you can go for an hour without using the restroom if you've gone right before. So I always tell them that. And I have never had a student ask me to use the bathroom in many years. I'll say that, many years. There's always, there's an exception every once in a while. But so I always laugh when I think about coming to the theater. And I tell other teachers this and they're like, oh, that's a great idea. And then they pick it up. And then I have my, the students who, when you're driving around the Bayfront and you pass the statue or you pass Marina Jacks, they'll poke you and they'll show you, oh, look at that. And I always think to myself, you don't see this in your daily, like the children don't see this, something that we take for granted and we drive by multiple times, and then coming to the theater, seeing their faces when they look at the stage and the lights and and so there's all those secondary pieces, I guess you would call them. And while I don't have a specific instance of a student or a story or with one specific student, it goes back to those kids who finally get something. I might have taught my heart out teaching like main idea or how the character develops and changes over time, or and I work so hard and I think I'm very entertaining. I feel like I'm putting shows on in my classroom all the time.
My dad would always say a teacher is a one woman show.
Yeah. But they're just not getting it. And then I come, I bring them here, and then, we'll have another assessment where that's, that same standard is being assessed, and they finally can see it in a way that I thought maybe I was doing, but wasn't. So really, for me, that's the biggest takeaway. So I think some teachers might be reluctant to, fill out more paperwork and bring kids here. But one of my favorite mottos is work smart, not hard. And so I think by bringing your students to experience the theater, participating in everything that you guys offer, the modules, maybe even having teaching artists come out, that's working smart. And you're really accomplishing what you need to do in a year with your students. So
The other thing that I think you do as a teacher when you bring the community into your classroom is you're showing connectivity between what happens in school and what happens in the community. And I think oftentimes people think that we learn in silos.
Yes, in isolation. Yeah.
And we don't exist in silos. Like we have to, in this world, we have to work together. And it's it's like this, you don't necessarily have to like say that explicitly, but you're showing, hey, the Van Wezel is in the community, and here you are at school now going to the Van Wezel. Like I think that there's something really to that, to model connection.
I agree. And we are very, very fortunate in Sarasota because Alta Vista is a Title I school. So we get tickets, and we get bus reimbursement. So there's zero cost to students, because I know sometimes cost can be a factor for many families, especially in 2026, right? Things are tough. So to have that is an added thing that I hope people realize, that at Title I schools are eligible for tickets and bus reimbursement.
It costs you nothing to come and enjoy the magic of theater. I always think it's funny, and I try to make a point of this every time I go up onto the stage before the show, because the number of kids that say, "I loved the movie," like they don't even have language for what they're seeing. So that's why I say you are attending a live performance. These are live human beings. They hear you. This is not a movie. This is something very different, very special. We take it very seriously to be able to present this, particularly to those kids who wouldn't have an opportunity to do it otherwise.
Absolutely. And this year we were very fortunate to see Baba Got Bars was one of the shows we saw, and there may have been other ones. This was just the most recent one, where the students participate. And there may be a better word for it, but so forgive me.
No,
the students are participating in the performance. So my students will still, these several months later, bring language into the classroom that we learned there. And so it wasn't just they like talking at kids, or like sometimes in the classroom I feel like I have to watch that myself. Like, am I just talking at them? Or even viewing a performance is great, especially if it's a story that they're familiar with, or characters that they're familiar with. But that brought the kids on the stage. I don't know if I'm explaining it exactly clearly, but
no, it's engagement. And when you're actually engaged in the process of telling the story, that's going to stick with you more than just like sitting and receiving it, right?
Absolutely. Right. They did it. And so, it stays with them. And so that was something really, I learned something new all the time when I come here. And that was a big takeaway for me there. And then we had the opportunity to have a teaching artist come in and work with the kids. And he was relevant to their lives, right? Not something they didn't understand. He spoke in a way that they could understand and that they could get. And they just loved him. And I just feel like if teachers in Sarasota and Manatee aren't taking advantage of this, that they need to start.
Come and take advantage of it. Come and use me. Use me.
And if you need help from a teacher, feel free to reach out to me, Kimberly Hall at SarasotaCountySchools.net. I'm right there. But it's really easy. I think teachers have a lot on their plates, and it's easy to say, I can't do one more thing.
Yeah.
But in the long run, you're really working smart. not hard.
Yeah.
You really are bringing a lot to your kids. And until you do it, I think it's hard to really see that. So
I'm so happy to hear this from you, because it really is what we try to do here, and you take full advantage of it. So, and we're so grateful
I
that
do
you
take
do.
full advantage of
Absolutely,
it.
as you should.
I'm already looking forward to next season.
Oh,
so.
so what a perfect
Segue.
segue. So we always have a fun segment as part of this podcast, and this one, this is hot off the presses,
Okay.
Kim. Nobody knows
How
this yet. I have
exciting.
not told anybody, but we have a new season coming up of school time shows, and I have to say I'm pretty excited about it. There's a lot of titles here that I hope teachers will be excited about, because there's a lot of ways to connect. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to give you the title of one of the shows that's coming,
Okay.
and I'd love for you to share with me just briefly what could be a good curricular connection to that show. Like how could you bring this show into your classroom in a way that would be useful? And maybe not necessarily your classroom, but a class. Because some of these titles might be a little young for fourth graders, which is who you usually
Right.
teach. But just sort of in thinking of what
Or
the
how
bigger
it would work,
picture.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So the first show we have coming is called Clifford the Big Red Dog.
Okay, well, who doesn't love Clifford? And again, that's a primary audience, the target audience. So that to me, when I hear a story that kids are familiar, or a character, I should say, that kids are familiar with, that is reading all the way, all day long, right? They may get other things. Clifford often teaches lessons, and there's something that they take away from it. But there are probably many ELA standards that can be, connected to that.
For friends at home, ELA is English Language Arts. So that's
reading.
or
Sorry, it's a
reading.
fancy
Otherwise,
way, yes,
it's our teacher speak
Yes.
for reading. Okay. There is a very dynamic person. His name is Mr. C, and he is a scientist who's also a teacher, who is also a performer. So the show is Mr. C, Science Goes Viral, and he's going to be talking about doing all sorts of science experiments on the stage.
Well, so that's easy. That's a softball. We should have started with
I
that
should,
one.
right?
Well, obviously, first of all, as an ELA, a reading teacher, everything comes back to reading. So there's always going to be, whatever you tell me is coming up, I'm going to say reading. But obviously here, there's the science connection. And I don't teach science, especially in the intermediate grades. In fifth grade, they take a science test. In other grades, they take, science tests throughout the year. But I feel like to see that science can be fun if you're doing experiments, but if you're just reading out a book or like, learning vocabulary, so it's a way to bring some excitement to what could be a dry topic.
Yeah, not everybody loves science, but we're all tested on it, right?
Yes.
In schools.
And we all like to see experiments. So I think that would be exciting. It's a
Awesome.
good one.
We got Schoolhouse Rock.
Uh,
Get your adverbs here.
So I will admit to this. I am old enough to remember when Schoolhouse Rock was on Saturday mornings.
I
So
am
know
too.
a
So
lot
I know
about
exactly.
the bill on Capitol Hill
Absolutely.
and Conjunction Junction.
What's your function?
Very good. And I actually, even in fourth grade, I play snippets of Schoolhouse Rock. And every one of my students this year can sing that Conjunction Junction, and they can tell you what a conjunction is. So I'm going to put myself down for that one. I'm going to remember that I love Schoolhouse Rock.
It's classic.
And you know what? Those songs that just stay with you. It's like what I was trying to explain about the Baba Got Bars and the kids immersing themselves in the, being part of the program, how they take it back. Schoolhouse Rock is that same thing. They're going to be singing it, which after a while might drive you crazy because you'll start singing it. But the content, what you're trying to teach them, stays with them.
Yeah.
So that's exciting.
Yeah, I'm very happy about that.
Mhm.
Also, Velveteen Rabbit. I don't know here's what I don't know. Is it just that I'm an older person and I love Velveteen Rabbit? Like, do parents and teachers and kids, do they know Velveteen Rabbit?
I don't think as well as some other characters like Clifford, but certainly it's a classic. And I talk to my kids a lot about things they should be aware of, even if it's not your jam, which I understand, you should know certain things. And Velveteen Rabbit is certainly one of those classic stories. That's again probably a primary audience, and reading connections
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, but also I also wonder if there could be like maybe a science connection there too about like, well, maybe not. Maybe not. No, and I think that'd be shoehorning something. All right. Yeah. ELA.
ELA.
Reading. Pout Pout Fish.
Oh, I love I love teaching fourth grade, but one thing I miss about teaching primary are some of those characters, and Pout Pout Fish is one. Pout Pout Fish is one of those characters that just all kids love. And there's a lot of, you learn a lot of great things. And actually, I feel like there was a Pout Pout Fish story several years ago when I taught primary that I got to see. And
there's actually a movie coming out in November.
Is there?
About
that's
Pout Pout Fish movie. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, when there's a movie, there's that excitement of it too. So, but Pout Pout Fish, you're going to sell out of that one. I'm sure.
I think so. I'm certainly hoping. We've got this is the 250th anniversary of America this year, and I've named this season America Sings.
Okay.
And of course, Schoolhouse Rock. There's quite a bit of America information in that show. But we also have a show called Forgotten Founding Fathers, which is written by one of the original members of the Roots, the show, the band, the Roots, Dice Raw, and he lives here in Sarasota some part of the year.
Yeah.
And he has written this show about the founding fathers, but some of the founding fathers that maybe you haven't heard of. And it is done very much in with a sort of a hip hop R&B kind of vibe to it, and I'm really excited to be offering this because it's actually a show that I think will speak to some of our older students, both in middle school and high school.
Wow.
And we're going to be doing that at Booker. There's a new theater, fairly new theater at Booker High School, so we'll be performing it there, and not necessarily on our Van Wezel stage.
Right. Well, when you were talking about that, I immediately thought of Hamilton.
Yeah.
And I think many of us have learned facts about Hamilton through song, right? That we, have just picked up. So
I think very much similar vibes.
Yes, yeah. It sounds like it. So it sounds like
so
exciting.
We'll get a little
I have to
history
sneak
in
on that
there.
one.
And then we have another one called Let Freedom Sing. Again, it's sort of celebrating America and all of the wonderful things about America that we all are very proud of when we talk about being Americans. That one is I'm kind of looking at those three in particular as sort of the kind of America, the America grounding for this 250th anniversary, which we're celebrating not during the school year. So I figure I'm taking liberty and I'll be celebrating it all next school year.
Anything to have a celebration.
Exactly.
I agree.
The last one I want to talk to you about is called Cat Kid. Now, I'm wondering if kids know about Cat Kid.
Oh, I believe they do. Cat Kid is another one. Get your tickets early for this because Cat Kid, if I'm not mistaken, is a dog man
related to dog man
related.
Yeah.
So yes, so that is going to be another one that is going to sell itself and is going to sell out. So I don't know how many performances. Will there be 2?
There'll be 2. Yeah. So hopefully we'll get if you're a teacher and you're listening to this, tickets don't get available. Reservations don't open until August.
Okay.
But when they do, get on it early.
Absolutely. So I'm going to tell you, I'm going to put it in my phone as a reminder because I do not want to miss out. My kids will love Cat Kid for sure to see that. And and the Schoolhouse Rock.
Oh, yeah.
I think that's going
to be. There's going to be some good ones.
They all sound great, but for fourth graders. So put it in your calendar, and it would be a shame to miss out on these for sure.
Especially since if you're a Title I school teacher, it costs you nothing.
Absolutely. And nothing is my favorite. My favorite price.
Free $99. Come on. Well, Kim, thank you so much for coming and being with us today. I am always so inspired talking to you and so grateful for your partnership You are one of our go-to folks whenever we have opportunities, because we know you will take advantage of it, and we're really grateful for that.
Absolutely. And I am equally grateful for your partnership. So I think of all the kids who would not have these opportunities if not for the opportunities that you provide them. So I really value this relationship, and I mean it. If there's anyone out there who needs some help from a teacher perspective, I hope they reach out and start taking advantage of this if you're not already doing so.
You heard it here, teachers. You heard it here.
You heard it here first. All those shows.
Yes, exactly. Well, as always, friends, subscribe, like, and you can always find us online at Van Wezel PAH, or the Education Department at Van Wezel EDU. Check us out on all our channels. Thank you for joining us today for another Curtain Call conversation. Thank you, Kim.
Thank you, Justin.
And we'll see you next time.